June 18, 2023, 8 a.m., North Atlantic Ocean. A submersible the size of a minivan is lowered into dark water 400 miles off the coast of Newfoundland. Inside, 5 people sit on the floor of a cramped cylinder. No seats, no safety harnesses, no way to open the door from inside. They're bolted in. The destination, 12,500 feet down, where the wreck of the Titanic has rested for over a century. The submersible is called Titan. It was built by a private company. It has never been safety certified. Its hull is made of carbon fiber, a material no one had ever used for a deep-sea submersible before. Engineers warned it was dangerous. The company ignored them. 1 hour and 45 minutes into the dive, communication stops. What happened in those final moments? Why were warnings from experts dismissed for years? This is the story of the OceanGate Titan. A submersible that should never have been built, a disaster that should never have happened, and 5 people who trusted the wrong company with their lives. Before we understand what went wrong, you need to understand the man who built the Titan. Stockton Rush grew up wealthy, connected to American founding fathers, fascinated by exploration. He earned degrees from Princeton and Berkeley. He worked in aerospace. He started businesses. But his obsession was the deep ocean, a frontier he believed was being held back by excessive caution. In 2009, he founded OceanGate with a mission: democratize deep-sea exploration. Make it available to anyone willing to pay. For decades, only governments and elite research institutions could reach extreme depths. Rush wanted to change that. He positioned himself as a disruptor, challenging an overly conservative industry. But there was a problem with Rush's philosophy. He didn't just want to innovate, he wanted to ignore the rules entirely. In one interview, he said, "At some point, safety is just pure waste." In another, he bragged, "You're remembered for the rules you break." He compared himself to innovators who defied conventional thinking. He believed regulations were obstacles, not safeguards. By 2018, OceanGate had built the Titan, and Rush had made a decision that would kill him and 4 others. The hull would be made of carbon fiber. Every other deep-sea submersible used titanium or steel. These materials are heavy, expensive, and proven. Engineers understand exactly how they behave under pressure. When metal begins to fail, it deforms gradually, giving warning signs through sound and visible stress. Carbon fiber doesn't work that way. It's lighter and cheaper, which is why Rush chose it. But under the crushing pressure of the deep ocean, carbon fiber develops invisible microscopic cracks. It weakens silently with every dive, showing no external signs of damage, until one day it reaches a critical threshold and shatters instantly. Rush knew this. Engineers told him repeatedly he didn't care. He believed they were wrong, and he was right. He controlled the submersible with a $30 video game controller. To understand why the Titan failed, you need to understand pressure. At sea level, atmospheric pressure is 14.7 pounds per square inch. That's normal. We don't feel it because we've lived with it our entire lives. But as you descend into the ocean, pressure increases rapidly. At 12,500 feet, where the Titanic rests, the pressure is 6,000 pounds per square inch. That's the weight of 3 SUVs pressing down on every square inch of the submersible surface. At that depth, any weakness becomes catastrophic. The Titan had 3 critical flaws. First, carbon fiber degrades with every pressure cycle. Each time the submersible dove, the hull compressed under immense force. Each time it surfaced, the hull expanded. This cycle created microscopic damage that accumulated invisibly. Engineers call this cyclic loading. In metal, you can detect it through testing. In carbon fiber, you can't see it until it's too late. The Titan had completed dozens of dives by 2023. With each one, the hull weakened. Hairline fractures spread through the material like cracks in ice, invisible to the naked eye, but devastating under stress. Second, the viewport window. The circular window that passengers looked through was rated for depths of 4,000 feet. The Titanic sits at 12,500 feet. Using the window at 3 times its rated depth wasn't just risky, it was reckless. The manufacturer had clearly specified the limit. OceanGate ignored it. Third, the hybrid design. The Titan's cylindrical hull was carbon fiber, but the 2 end caps were titanium. Connecting materials with vastly different properties creates stress points where they meet. Under extreme pressure, these joints become weak links. Every submersible engineer knew this. That's why proven designs use single material construction. Rush dismissed all 3 concerns as outdated thinking. By 2021, the Titan was carrying paying passengers. Each trip cost $250,000. Some dives were successful, others had to abort due to technical failures, and on multiple descents, passengers heard loud cracking and popping sounds coming from the hull. OceanGate told them it was normal, the hull adjusting to pressure, nothing to worry about, but those sounds were the Titan screaming. It was breaking down, dive after dive, warning everyone inside that something was catastrophically wrong. In 2018, David Lockridge walked through the Titan during a routine inspection. He was OceanGate's Director of Marine Operations, responsible for safety. What he found terrified him. The carbon fiber hull showed signs of delamination, layers separating from each other. The viewport was rated for 4,000 feet, but would be diving to 12,500. There was no proper testing data, no independent certification, no rigorous engineering analysis to prove the design was safe. Lockridge wrote a detailed report. He stated clearly, without immediate action and third-party evaluation, the Titan could fail catastrophically, killing everyone aboard. 3 days later, he was fired. OceanGate didn't just terminate him, they sued him for breach of confidentiality, claiming his safety report violated non-disclosure agreements. Lockridge countersued for wrongful termination. The case was settled quietly, with agreements that prevented him from speaking publicly about what he knew. But Lockridge wasn't the only one raising alarms. The Marine Technology Society, an organization of leading ocean engineers, sent OceanGate a letter in 2018. They expressed unanimous concern about the Titan's experimental design and urged the company to cease operations until independent testing confirmed it was safe. They warned of potential catastrophic outcomes. Rush's response: the industry was resistant to innovation. In 2019, more than 30 submersible experts signed another letter. They pointed out that every other manned submersible operating at extreme depths had been independently certified. The Titan had not. They begged OceanGate to stop. Rush ignored them. He said certification was bureaucratic waste designed for old technology. He claimed OceanGate's in-house testing was sufficient, but the company never released their data. They never allowed independent review. When journalists asked questions, Rush said the information was proprietary. Other engineers who worked on the Titan quit after their recommendations were dismissed. One later testified that questioning Rush's decisions was seen as betrayal. The company culture became trust the CEO or leave, so they left. And Rush kept diving. The last morning, June 18th, 2023, began like any other dive day. Hamish Harding, a 58-year-old British billionaire and adventurer, posted excitedly on social media about the upcoming trip. He had flown to space, set world records, and now he would see the Titanic. He called it the adventure of a lifetime. Shahzada Dawood, 48, a Pakistani businessman, had planned the trip as a Father's Day experience with his son, Suleiman. The teenager was nervous about the dive, friends would later say. He didn't want to go, but it was Father's Day and he wanted to make his father happy. He brought a Rubik's Cube to keep himself distracted during the descent. Paul-Henri Nargelet, 77, a French Titanic expert, had visited the wreck more than 30 times. He knew the risks better than anyone. He went anyway. And Stockton Rush, 61, climbed into the Titan as its pilot. confident, certain, in control. At 8 a.m., the submersible was sealed from the outside and lowered into the water. 5 people sat on the floor of the cramped cylinder. No seats, no safety harnesses. The only light came from a few LED strips. The only control was Russia's video game controller. They began their descent. For the first hour and 45 minutes, text messages arrived regularly at the surface. Depth updates, status reports, everything normal. Then, at 9:45 a.m., the messages stopped. The surface crew waited. They sent messages asking for updates. No response. They tried again. Silence. Minutes became an hour, then 2 hours. By early afternoon, the US Coast Guard had been notified. A massive international search and rescue operation launched. Ships converged on the site. Planes scanned the ocean. Underwater robots deployed. The world watched and waited, and families held vigil. News networks broadcast oxygen calculations, counting down the hours until the air inside would run out. But the countdown was meaningless. The Titan was already gone. 1 millisecond, somewhere around 9:45 a.m., at a depth no one will ever know for certain, the carbon fiber hull failed. It happened in less than 1 millisecond, 1,000th of a second, faster than a bullet, faster than sound, faster than the human brain can process a single thought. One instant, 5 people existed. The next, they didn't. The implosion was so violent that the surrounding water, rushing inward to fill the void, created a shockwave heard by Navy listening devices hundreds of miles away. The air inside the Titan compressed so rapidly that it reached temperatures exceeding 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit for a fraction of a second, hotter than the surface of the sun. The hull didn't crack gradually. It didn't leak. It didn't give warning. It simply ceased to exist, disintegrating into fragments scattered across the ocean floor. Hamish Harding, who had survived flying to the edge of space, was gone. Shahzada Dawood, who wanted to share an adventure with his son, was gone. Suleiman Dawood, 19 years old, who brought a Rubik's Cube he would never finish, was gone. Paul-Henri Nargeolet, who had dived to the Titanic more than 30 times, was gone. And Stockton Rush, who believed the rules didn't apply to him, was gone. Their bodies were destroyed so completely that only small fragments would ever be recovered. For 4 days, the world searched. Families hoped. Experts calculated oxygen levels and debated rescue scenarios. But it was all theater. The Navy had detected the implosion on June 18th at 9:45 a.m. They knew within hours that everyone was dead. They didn't say anything. They let the world hope. On June 22nd, debris was found, and the truth could no longer be hidden. The investigation revealed what everyone already knew. The disaster was entirely preventable. OceanGate had ignored warnings from dozens of engineers. They had refused independent certification. They had operated a submersible that multiple experts declared unsafe. And they had done it all while charging passengers $250,000 and having them sign waivers that mentioned death 3 times on the first page. The company knew. They sent people down anyway. Suleiman Dawood was 19 years old. He had just finished his first year of university. He loved science fiction and solving puzzles. On Father's Day 2023, he agreed to dive to the Titanic, even though he was terrified, because he didn't want to disappoint his father. He sat on the floor of the Titan, clutching his Rubik's Cube as the submersible descended into darkness. And when the hull failed at 9:45 a.m., he had 1 millisecond of existence left, not even enough time to be afraid. His body was never recovered, neither were the others. They rest now in the same abyss that claimed the Titanic, scattered across the ocean floor at 12,500 feet. Stockton Rush once said, "You're remembered for the rules you break." He was right. He will be remembered for breaking every safety rule that mattered, for ignoring every engineer who warned him, for putting innovation above human life, and for killing 4 people along with himself because he believed he was smarter than everyone else. At 12,500 feet, the ocean doesn't care about ambition. It doesn't forgive arrogance, and it doesn't give second chances. The Titan should never have been built. 5 people should still be alive. This disaster didn't have to happen. But when profit and ego override engineering, when warnings are dismissed as obstacles to innovation, when safety becomes pure waste, tragedies like this become inevitable. The only question was never if. It was always when. The Ocean Gate Titan disaster killed 5 people in 1 millisecond and exposed the catastrophic consequences of ignoring engineering expertise. If this story impacted you, leave a like to help others learn from this preventable tragedy. Subscribe for more disaster investigations and the lessons that should never be forgotten.